Cool, thank you all for coming this morning. Creative Mornings starting at 8:30, that's amazing. You're all here looking good, all had a coffee, that's cool. So welcome and thank you for being here. I'm going to be talking about transparency. You already said I'm a strategist here at Sapient, but I'm not going to be talking about either Sapient or strategy, so that's kind of funny. We're going to hear a bit about transparency, but actually I changed the topic a bit to my means. So here's what happens if you Google transparency. That's what I actually did when I started working on the talk. What you find there is, strangely enough, up there's Heidi Klum for some reason. I didn't investigate on it, don't know. But there's a whole lot of stuff about government, you see some data stuff, you also learn a bit about laws, processes, data, all kinds of things. Those are things that can be transparent, right? There's also lots of stock photography here, but nothing really human except for Heidi Klum in that case. So that's transparency. But I think, and that's what my talk is about, humans are not transparent. I think humans, we can be open about things, we can share our opinions, our feelings, our beliefs, whatever is going on in our heads, but we're not transparent. So I wanted to learn a bit about openness and what does it mean, because I think we're not transparent, we're open, and we use communication to be open. And I think most of us here in the room work in this field about communication, creativity, and so on. So the talk, I changed it a bit, not so much about transparency, I'm talking about openness. Everything that I'm going to say this morning is on my Medium already, actually, but I'm going to share the link afterwards. So whenever you have the urge to note something down or so, you're covered, it's all there, so I'm going to share the link afterwards. I decided to start with a little exercise, actually, activity. Everybody hates that, especially at 9 a.m. in the morning. But we need to do this because I'm going to walk you through this one in a minute. So we need a little exercise here to get started. And there's a prize involved. And there's two people in the room who cannot take part. And they know who that is because they know the answer already. But the exercise goes like this. Pick 3 of these traits, of these characteristics that you think correlate with being a creative person. If a researcher asks you, how are creative people like? What are characteristics for them? Which 3 do you think, one's easy, but which 3 do you think are correlating, are somehow connected to being a creative person? I decided not to let you write it down. I'm going to trust you on this. So we're going to play a round of bingo here. I will show you the characteristics that the study found, and then someone has to yell bingo, and you're going to win this duty-free thing that I found. And I let the chocolate in, okay? So it's not just the box. Okay, everybody has 3? Okay. All right, this is the study, and I had help here from a professional, actually, and it was our intern, Amelie. She's here somewhere. She helped me understanding this, because this is nerd stuff. This is a study, a psychology study, and it shows correlations. And correlations mean 1 is positive correlated, -1 is negative correlated, 0 means there's no correlation. There's no combination between what we studied and with what we want to find out. So what you see here is a couple of different things. One is those are different methodologies, like the columns are different methodologies that they used to find out what creative people are like what are characteristics of creative people, right? That's the same question here. And they use different methodologies. One was a self-report, that's on the left, asking the people to describe themselves. Then there's a peer report. The peer report is asking their buddies, like 3 people were asked, how is that person? How would you describe her? Video-based rating is what the researchers themselves did. They characterized the person. And then there's 2 forms, like neutral forms that somebody filled out in order to find out how is that person. Okay, so it's from self-assessment to kind of a test, which is not based on some people's assessment. Okay, correlations, and everything that's yellow is correlated. So that's easy, okay? We can see here already there's obviously something going on. This correlates across all studies. It doesn't matter in that characteristic if it's self-assessment or if it's a test. It correlates at every single time. By the way, the A and B is a twin study. It doesn't matter right now, but they did twin studies as well, so it's everything double the size. So the one in the middle is openness. Anyone picked openness? It was an easy one, right? Okay. Okay, so openness correlates across all methodologies with being creative, which means a person that's perceived open is also very likely to be perceived as being creative, either as self-report or in the test here, which is called T88 for some reason. I don't know. That's openness. The other one, next one, is extraversion. Yay, that's not the bingo. You didn't win yet. Okay. Extraversion. Extraversion is interesting, I found, because extraversion only correlates if people are involved. Which means whenever a person is assessing that person being conducted in the study, then it correlates. So if a person is perceived being extroverted, she's very likely also perceived as creative, but not if it's in a test. There's no correlations if there's in a test if you are extroverted and creative. It doesn't matter in that case, which is kind of interesting, right? Third one, you know the rules, the bingo rules. Third one is intelligence. There's one. Hey, cool. She didn't have you have to share then. Okay, you have to share. It's a lot of them in there. Okay, cool. Just let me know afterwards because I won't be able to remember. The three characteristics here are openness, extraversion, and intelligence. And you can see intelligence doesn't show up every single time. It shows up in the tests here, but also in the researcher's observation, but not so much in the self-assessment and peer assessment, because intelligence obviously is something that's hard to assess. But it takes some brains, right, to solve problems, which is creativity. It takes some intelligence to come up with solutions for problems, which is what each of us is probably doing each day. So those are the three that the report found, and I was pretty happy about that, because the openness thing was interesting to me before I found the study. And I found it great that you can see openness plays a role, but extraversion doesn't so much, at least not every single time, because I find it interesting how introverts work in the field of creativity. And obviously, especially if it doesn't matter, actually, if you're extroverted or not, then there's something, it raises some questions. So I want to show you the other ones too. These don't correlate so much. They correlate sometimes. There's some negative correlations up there, but I just skipped all of them. Okay. Now, one thing about the introverts, extroverts, I want to point out, it's not like everyone is either this or that. We might have a feeling I'm more introverted or I'm more extroverted, but we're actually on a scale, which is, I guess, it's the case for everything that concerns human beings. We're never black or white, we're always somewhere on a spectrum. Same with introverts and extroverts. And there's a thing called ambiverts in the middle. So maybe most of us are actually in the middle and we're not introverted or extroverted all of the time, but we're somewhere in the middle. Depends on the situation, depends on the task, depends on whatever we're up to. There's spectrum. As I said, I found it interesting how introverts are doing concerning openness and creativity. Now, finally, this is my talk. This is what you saw and why you came here. It's going to be Transparency, a guide to openness for introverts and friends. It's going to be lighthearted. Okay, this is not a deep dive study, even if it started that way. It's going to be lighthearted. And I wanted to share the reason why I think that's something really interesting. I just started a new job 4 months ago here. And it happens that one of the core values at this company is openness. It's a coincidence in that case. One of the core values is openness, and I found it terrifying, to be honest, because it can be really hard to work in an environment that's super open, where everyone gives you feedback all of the time. It can be really hard. So, so that's why I wanted to learn more about openness since I started here. And Sapient has kind of like a guide, or like what does openness mean? Because those core values, we perceive them not every day, but most of the time being, talking with people about our growth, looking forward where we want to go. So these core values matter. So we're very transparent on what openness actually means, and I'm using these 3 parts of what openness means according to Sapient for this talk as well. So part 1 is listen up. Listen up is actually the super skill of any introvert, right? It's not something that introverts have to learn because we're actually really good at listening. But still, I wanted to point out some things because listening means, according to a sound consultant that I found, means making meaning from sound, right? I want to find out what this person is saying or whatever I'm learning in a video or something. I try to make meaning out of it. And in order to do this, I need to listen and not be all consumed by preparing to respond. Because that's what happens most of the time when we are in business meetings, at least to my observations, that we're trying to find a response rather than thinking about what the other person is saying. It happens most of the time, and I've been in situations where I was thinking hard, what could I say, what could I add to that? Because we have this urge to add something to the conversation rather than listening what the other person is actually saying. So listen up. I found something about listening, and if you research listening, there's a whole lot of guides about active listening. And active listening is doing things like, while someone is talking. That's cool, that's okay, you can do that. But I found something that I found actually hilarious, and I'm not making fun of it, but I just find it interesting. And that's that. Anyone knows? Anyone knows what that is? It says here, right? It's a talking stick. And the talking stick is from indigenous peoples in North America, obviously. They use it to assign roles in their meetings. So whoever has the talking stick talks, and all the others are listening. I have a talking stick, by the way. I have a clicker. I just try to... Now, what I'm not saying is we need talking sticks in our business meeting. That would be kind of awkward, right? We could try. I don't know what happens. But I like the notion of that, right? We have clear roles of who talks and who listens only, right? So the talking stick also has a whole lot of symbolism on there. I don't remember all of them, but one is that's buffalo hair, or that's supposed to be buffalo hair. You can buy it here if you want. That's buffalo hair, and the buffalo is a symbol for strength. That's maybe going back to introverts. If you talk and you have the talking stick, remember the strength of the animal. There's also shells on there, shells to remind you that contexts change and that situations change and that not everything stays the same. It's sometimes good to have that bigger picture while you're talking. That's a talking stick. That's my input on listen up. The second part, and that's my favorite part, is always be curious. Now, curiosity is something, and many of you might have children, but most of us have been 5-year-olds one day, like in the past, asking one question and one question only. And the question is why? Why is the tree like that? Why does he do that? Why is a person like... Whatever, they ask why. That's what they do. That's their job, right? That's their job to... It sounds weird, right? But I think it's their job to find out what the world is like and to make some meaning for them. So that's why they ask. But at some point, we lose it. And it's kind of interesting, why do we lose that asking why and asking until we know? And there's some people who don't lose it, and this guy actually didn't lose it. Anyone knows him?
Tim Urban.
Yay! It's Tim Urban, and he's the author of a blog called Wait But Why. That's what he does. He asks questions and he asks why, and he calls it until you hit the floor, until you know. That's his quest, if you want. And he has written an extensive series of articles about a person that also hasn't lost that skill of asking why and of always pushing boundaries. That person he calls the world's reddest man. And that person is Elon Musk, who is definitely pushing boundaries. And the ebook is really worth the reading, by the way. I highly recommend it. But I want to share another thing of what he's learned while writing it. He shared some epiphanies because he asked himself, what is the difference between me, a normal person, and those people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, whoever? What's the difference between them and us? What do they have that we lack? And he has 3 epiphanies on that. 1, you don't know shit. And that's something that all the wise people have said in some way or the other. Einstein has said it, Socrates has said it, Steve Jobs has said it, Elon Musk has a version of it. Everyone at some point says, you don't know shit, the world is, we don't know anything of it. We might know a little of it, but we somehow tend to think that we know all of it. And for that reason, stay in that loop of, okay, we don't ask because we take things for granted at some point. And his epiphanies are all about, Elon Musk isn't actually weird or something, he just doesn't have these boundaries for some reason. Okay, that's first epiphany. Second one, no one else knows shit either. This is a great one because it's so true, right? Have you said ever in meetings and thought, okay, I won't ask that question because obviously everyone else seems to know the answer and maybe I appear dumb? I have. And you end up not asking, and then at the end you figure out 2 weeks later, okay, I really should have asked it. That's his epiphany. No one else knows shit either. There's nothing in society or other people that they know or that they have that we don't have. So we're kind of making our own boundaries here. Third one, for the players. You're playing Grand Theft Life. So you're actually at the steering wheel. That's what he says here. And his truth, and that's not everyone's truth, but that's what he says, and I agree on that, is we're holding ourselves back for two reasons. One is we have some weird fears about what might happen if we appear dumb in a meeting. Like, what's the thing that would happen if I asked a stupid question in a meeting? Probably nothing, and probably it's even better to raise the issue and have everyone be clear about it, right? But there's some fear around what would happen and what's the bad thing that could happen. But also, and that's even the bigger one, we're tying knowing everything to our identity. We want to be in charge. We want to be the ones who know, and we want to be the ones who don't seem stupid, right? And we tie that to our identity. Whereas what we could do is be open as a person and have this growth mindset. As in, okay, I want to learn this. I want to, really know what the question to this is. That's his idea on Grand Theft Life. Last part already is feedback. This is really the hard part, and this was why I was so terrified about this openness thing in my new job. Share information and feedback. Now, share information, there's so many tools out there that are introvert-friendly to share information. There's Slack, and there's Wikipedia, and there's all stuff. So share information is not the big thing, but feedback is. Giving feedback and receiving feedback. And I want to share 2 books. I have one with me here if you want to have a look. But I want to share these 2 books. One is Difficult Conversations. The other is Thanks for the Feedback. They're both by Douglas Stone and Sheila Heen, and the other one is with Bruce Patton. As I said, they're all linked in the blog if you want to have a look. Now, these books, one is around difficult conversations, how to frame things, and the other one is how to receive feedback. And I'm aware of the fact that we cannot learn this from reading a book. There's no way you can learn conversations or any kind of skill like whatever, acting, biking, whatever. You can't learn this from a book. But what you can learn is frame things in certain ways so that you can make more meaning of it. And I want to focus on the feedback part. Thanks for the feedback here. Because they provide some frameworks in the book that I find super useful to put some structure in what you receive each day. And I want to share 2 things. One, and this is a current example. This is something that happened this week. I told somebody, "You don't look good today." And the authors suggest 3 kind of buckets where feedback kind of comes from, right? One could be appreciation, or coaching, or evaluation. Right? I could be appreciating that the person came in sick. Wow, you're coming in sick. I appreciate that. I want you to feel okay. I'm seeing that you put an extra effort in here. Another could be coaching. Am I telling him, okay, you should really do something about your hair or your clothes or whatever? And the other one is evaluation. Am I saying that guy over there looks better? You know what I mean, okay. So those are the 3, they call it kinds of themes of feedback. And what I find interesting here is it helps to structure both for the giver, to clarify. I'm not evaluating you, I'm just trying to coach you, right? Because it can be misunderstood. But also for the receiver, even more for the receiver, to ask clarifying questions, just like the why part. Ask, okay, is this coaching, or where am I right now? Because if you don't clarify, then it clashes. Especially in business contexts, I guess. Because if I ask for coaching and I get evaluation, there might be some tension there, or I might be disappointed or frustrated, or all kinds of things can happen and do happen every day because it's not clear. And that's why I like this framework. The second one is, this is about temperament, and this is going back to our character in a way. And everyone in this room, everyone in the world has a different character concerning how they react to whatever happens in their environment. One is baseline. You have people who are more, can I say rainy? Rainy people who are more, moodier than others. And you have those bright people who find everything awesome and the coffee's awesome and, have you seen the tree over there? Okay, you know what I mean. That's the baseline. Then there's the swing. Swing is kind of the amplitude of how strong do I react to things. These people who fire up whenever something minor happens. And there's also people who just don't seem to notice anything. Okay, so there's swing. And as I said, it's not either this or that. It's always a spectrum, right? And there's sustain. And sustain means how long does it take for me to digest something that happened? Am I still working on something a week after it happened? Am I still working on that email a week earlier? Or did I already put it away and it's just something that happened? Those are like the three kind of ingredients that they have for how a character is to taking feedback and responding to the environment. And the point here is not just to self-assess what am I doing, how am I responding to things, but also if you're giving feedback to someone, to take into consideration how this person might be. If you know that you are more the stoic kind of person, not totally aware of all the little things that might be arousing, it might help to keep in mind that there's people who are more sensitive and to respond to that. That's it. That's the too early didn't listen summary. What I said in the beginning is openness is an indicator for being creative, for creative people. Extraversion isn't, at least not all of the time, and maybe it's a good thing to question if we integrate introverted people in that. And I shared 3 ideas on how to be open. One was listen up, listen without already preparing a response. Let some time go by, to be able to answer. Curiosity, ask why till you hit the floor, and don't be afraid to look stupid while doing that. And feedback was frame feedback. And I encourage you to read those books. I have them. If you're a sapient, I can share them. Frame feedback in order to make better use of it. Because feedback is great. It's hard, but it's great to know more, especially difficult feedback. Because people who maybe you're not having a good time with, or people you're having trouble with, they give you feedback that others don't. Especially if you're having trouble receiving feedback. Usually people hold back on feedback because they don't want to hurt you, for good reasons. But, if we learn to take in feedback and use it, then maybe that's something that helps us grow. That's that. Thank you. That's my medium. I hope I wasn't too fast, because it's 23 minutes. 4.
You cut it down. Very good. We're on
it happened before.
Yeah. So, are there any questions?
I will be here around if you, prefer to talk one-to-one. Everything's on here, so yeah, go.
Yeah, how would you start if you're in an environment where feedback might not come as you would like it, or something like that, how would you start? Would you just go out on all channels, hey, please give me feedback like this?
It can be difficult, right?
To a Slack channel with 300 people or whatever, which is hey, feedback, please give me like this. This.
Well, start small, I guess. Yeah. Creating habits. If you're in an environment that's not used to feedback, it might make sense to, it feels awkward maybe, but start something that takes in feedback. I want to share one thing because I just love it, and I'm oversharing probably, but we use something called mindful stand-up in our team here. And mindful stand-up is it happens once per week. It takes half an hour for the whole team. And what we do is we prepare something as feedback. And one is, what did I learn last week? What am I proud of? Who would I like to thank? And 2 more that I can't remember. But everyone prepares that, and we share that as a team. And it feels so awkward at first, but it changes the perception of how you're behaving in the week, because you're more aware of things. And that's what I love about the concept. So it's, I guess, habits, trying to find habits, start small. Yeah, that would be that. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Anno.
I have a question because sometimes I think, especially introverted colleagues, sometimes really hold gems, but we can't really get them out because they are the louder ones who just blast over it, like not on purpose, not because they're mean, but just because it's their nature. How can we accommodate meetings or brainstormings to really get out the gems from these more introverted people? Is there any idea you can?
Talking stick? No.
You have to talk.
I'm actually not making fun of the concept, by the way. I want to make this sure. But a facilitator helps to ask people, because you notice that if someone's holding back, and you sometimes you feel that they want to say something, but they're still trying to perfectionize the sentence that they want to say. You feel that. So a facilitator makes a lot of sense to ask people, okay, what's your point on that? And there's all kinds of guidelines to stop people over jamming stuff. So I would say facilitating stuff more and try to encourage them to speak up. Yep. Yeah.
I was wondering whether there's sort of the fourth category for that feedback, because I find it often I find it disturbing that when somebody just describes something, so he's just observing. He's neither evaluating something, nor
just stating a fact.
Just stating a fact without having already formed an opinion. Do you think probably that's just sort of lazy thinking, because it just doesn't think about what the receiver might? So the receiver is already thinking that he's formed an opinion, or
could be, but it makes sense to clarify still. As a receiver, was that evaluation right now, or are you just telling me that you don't like that sweater I'm wearing, for example? Or okay, that would be judgment, but you know what I mean. I guess the clarification still counts for that. But yeah, it can be just a fact. It's raining outside. But this communication model of I'm stating just the content, or it's something that's I want to have a person do something that is four-sided. I can't remember all the sides of it. But there can be an appeal in it, but it can also be just stating something. It's raining outside. Okay, am I telling you to wear something different right now, or am I accusing you of something? So, but I guess it makes sense to clarify. But yeah, it could be a fourth one.
That's it. Thank you.
Coffee.
Yeah.